G'day, I'm Rob.
And I'm Dave.
And you're listening to a very special, very unscripted, very unplanned episode of the Doctor Who show where, Dave, the new Doctor has been announced, Ncuti Gatwa.
He has. It is 10 p.m. here on the Australian East Coast. We were chatting and we thought, hey, let's just turn the mics on. And so we've done just that.
We certainly were chatting. In fact, about an hour before the announcement went out, I pinged you with a little note saying, oh, look, something cryptic's happening over here on Instagram. Ncuti Gatwa is doing 2 hearts and a blue box, and Russell T Davies is replying, is he the new Doctor? And then we just watched it evolve for the next hour.
Yes, it's been really interesting. I was chatting with you, I was chatting with our friends over at 42 to Doomsday, and when you told me about this, first of all, I sort of thought, well, that's a very odd way to make the announcement, but I did say to you, it makes sense as a pick. So it's a very believable pick, and we thought, is it something to do with the BAFTAs? Is RTD drunk?
Or I was tossing up, is he possibly a companion? Because surely they won't announce the Doctor in such a soft way. Maybe he's the companion, sort of doing a lead-in to the new Doctor.
Yes, but then it was announced in various different places on social media, but it really felt official and real when my phone flashed up with a BBC News alert telling me that it had happened. So if it's not true, even the BBC was fooled.
Well, let's talk about Ncuti in a moment and our backgrounds with him, because I believe that's quite different. In the official press release, Ncuti said, there aren't quite the words to describe how I'm feeling. A mix of deeply honoured, beyond excited, and of course a little scared. This role and show means so much to so many around the world, including myself, and each one of my incredibly talented predecessors has handled that unique responsibility and privilege with the utmost care. I will endeavour my utmost to do the same. Russell T Davies is almost as iconic as the Doctor himself, and being able to work with him is a dream come true. His writing is dynamic, exciting, incredibly intelligent, and fizzing with danger. An actor's metaphorical playground.
Wow, that's terrible. My utmost. Who on earth speaks like that? You can literally feel the committee throwing adjectives and verbs into that. I'll make sure we say this. Oh, it's going to be a privilege. Oh, how ridiculous. But who cares about the press release? Like, he's obviously going to be very excited. It's a big deal for him. Mm-hmm. Should we do reactions?
Well, let's do reactions, and then I'll come to RTD's quote. That's a shorter one to do later. But reactions. Your reaction, Dave.
I'm very cool with this pick. He wasn't on my 14 for 14 list, but, there are thousands of actors. I can't pick all of them. I think it makes a lot of sense to pick. I've seen him in 3 seasons of Sex Education. He has demonstrated in that he is a very, very capable actor. He's got really good comic timing. He's got an ability to do real emotion really well. He's 29. I had no idea he was that old. I knew that all these actors in Sex Education weren't 17, but I thought he was closer to 20 than 30. But yeah, he is almost 30. He'll certainly be 30 by the time he's seen on our screen. So he's not going to be playing it like he played a high school kid. It's going to be a very different performance. He's a capable actor. He's a fresh, up-and-coming face. We have talked, Rob, before about that sweet spot for actors playing the Doctor who are rising up to their fame, are getting known by the public, but aren't so big that they can just... they can't afford to do the role, that they can't be afforded, all the rest of it. He is right in that sweet spot. He is an actor that I know, and I think is very talented. And Jodie Whittaker continues her run as the only New Who actor who I didn't know about when she was announced. How do you feel?
Well, beautiful segue there, because we were talking about that on Twitter. It was the reverse for me when Whittaker came along. You didn't know her, but I did, because I'd seen Broadchurch and such. And so here I'm actually in the dark a little, because I've not seen Sex Education. I've not seen Ncuti act at all. But as I've already said to you privately, and as I've said publicly in the past too, I think what Doctor Who needs next is a dashing young man. And as soon as his picture comes up, I go, well, there's a dashing young man. I like the cut of his jib already. And, from what you've said here, and from what Rob from 42 to Doomsday has been saying on Twitter as well, apparently his daughter watches Sex Education, and she's had some nice things to say about Ncuti as well. I'm feeling very comfortable with this already, and I don't even know the guy.
Yeah, I have joked about the BBC sitting around conference tables going, "Get me a young David Tennant."
Yes.
And this feels like a young David Tennant.
Does it really?
Yeah, I think that in terms of where he is in his career, that youthful energy, but that ability to be really quite dark with his emotions, I see a lot of David Tennant similarities in this. Now, the 10th Doctor wasn't my favourite of the New Who Doctors, but I think that Tennant was a very capable actor in the role and did a lot for the role. And I see that potential, but I'm also very aware that the same with every actor who plays the Doctor, or indeed actress in Jodie's case, what costume they put them in, what character they give them, if they give them a character, and what scripts they give them obviously matter just as much, if not more. I think that Ncuti has ticked the box in terms of his talent, his ability, and his appropriateness for the role in the show in 2022. It's now over to the production team to make the best of that with the show.
Well, he's certainly going to look very interesting in Jodie's costume during the regeneration sort of period. But yes, after that, what will happen? Look, RTD has had some of the better costumes of the New Who era. I mean, the first time I saw Eccleston's costume, I was like, oh, a leather jacket? Oh, I'm not sure about that as the Doctor, because I was very into the Eighth Doctor's Byronic sort of aesthetic. But over time, that really grew on me. I thought, yes, you've nailed it there. And I think Tennant's costume was really good as well. So I think RTD will probably pick a good costume.
Look, I'd expect so. I think we've both got a lot of respect for RTD's abilities as a TV maker, yes. And that's for me certainly, and I think for you as well, only grown since he left Doctor Who. We've seen, look, again, we've talked about this before, but stuff like It's a Sin, a very British scandal. I think that he's really developed as a executive producer, and I have no reason to think that won't be seen again. You know, yeah, I think it's a surprising pick. He wasn't on my list, but it makes sense to me right here, right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hottest name we probably had that seemed the most likely was probably a Lydia West or something like that.
Yeah, and I was never quite sold on that pick, but I don't need to have been, because it's not her.
But look, speaking of RTD, I did say I had the quote from him. RTD says, "The future is here, and it's Ncuti. Sometimes talent walks through the door, and it's so bright and bold and brilliant, I just stand back in awe and thank my lucky stars. Ncuti dazzled us, seized hold of the Doctor, and owned those TARDIS keys in seconds. It's an honour to work with him, and a hoot. I can't wait to get started." I wonder if that's a clue, Dave, that he might be a funny Doctor.
Look, I certainly think that he has a very, very good comic timing, and I would be surprised if they didn't make use of that. Exactly how or what, I don't know, but it would surprise me if they didn't cast him and go, well, that's something that we can use, that's something that we can do. That would make a lot of sense. What's interesting about that quote there is RTD is going down we saw him, we auditioned him, and he did a good job, which I find much more reassuring than I always knew this was going to be my pick, as again we've discussed before. I like that reassurance of them going through a casting process rather than just I've got my pick. So that's another reason to be very positive, I think.
Indeed.
So, Rob, I think that's all I've really got to say as far as my initial reaction is concerned. I now have many questions. What sort of companions does a Doctor like this get? What sort of tone is it going to be? How's it all going to work? That's all sort of swirling around my head. I don't think this is the time and place for it. It'll be interesting to see how this develops. But look, my reaction's positive. I think the reaction I've seen from people who have seen his work before has equally been positive, and there's a strong vibe of, yep, that makes sense. No doubt as this goes on, we'll see some negative reactions. That's fine, and by the time we get to our monthly episode in about 3 weeks' time?
3 weeks.
3 weeks' time, yeah, look, that dust will have settled, and we can have a more reflective conversation.
Yeah, it was certainly something we wanted to do tonight. A, because we're sort of excited, but B, our next flagship show is 3 weeks away, so we wanted to put something out there. I'm much the same as you, Dave. Although I don't know the guy, I'm reacting to other people's reactions, and they've all been positive so far. As you say, there are the usual suspects out there who might say something silly, but generally this seems to be a great pick, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and even friends of mine who, of our vintage and grew up with the classic show, and deep in our hearts would perhaps like a more traditional doctor, a 45 to 50-year-old grumpy old man as the doctor, because that's what we grew up with. Even those people are going, I know I can't have that. I know that's not going to work right now. And given that I can't have that, this is the next best thing, and this makes a lot of sense. So, even with those caveats, I think people have been positive.
Yeah. A young, dashing doctor running around, having adventures, written by RTD. The future looks pretty bright, I think.
Yeah, the future does look pretty good.
Brilliant. Thank you for turning on the mics, Dave.
No, not a problem. I will continue my Sunday evening housework and get to bed at some point soon.
Same. Okay.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.